Hi boys and girls, this is lesson 1.10, U.S. customary units of length. Make sure you get that written down in your notebook with today's date. And you're going to be using your math journal, page 24, as well as your math notebook. So have them both available for you. So on page 24, you'll see that it has a units of length and a couple scales for you to look at. I added to the bottom a picture of a yardstick as well as a regular ruler. And I just want you to know they're definitely not drawn to scale, so don't be fooled. The ruler is just a bigger picture, right? So if you find the 12 on the yardstick, that's how far the ruler is going to go, right? That's 1 foot. So if you look at the difference. So 1 foot for the ruler is the 12 on the yardstick. The yardstick goes up to 36. So you can figure that that's 3 feet. Alright, so this you have access to on here, and then you have the top 2 things in your math journal as we go on. So I put the 2 pictures again there with the yardstick going off of the page this time, but then I also just wanted you to see that they used to make yardsticks like this one where you would unfold them, and you can easily tell it's 3 feet because there's 3 rulers put together that would stretch out to be the yardstick. So I thought that was interesting. Okay, so question for you to be thinking about. Do you think a toddler would be closer to 2 feet tall or 2 yards tall? So picture what those heights would be, and what do you think? Pause while you think about it. Jot down your answer in your notebook, and then come back. Okay, so for that question, 2 feet tall, about 24 inches, you could put up your hand up beside you and see that that's going to hit you probably somewhere in the middle of your leg. But then 2 yards tall, well, if 1 yard is 3 feet, 2 yards would be 6 feet tall. I don't think we're going to find any toddlers running around at 6 feet tall, do you? Yeah, I hope not. Okay, so make sure you understand that they'd be closer to 2 feet tall. And then here's another question for you. Do you think a 4th grader would be closer to 4 feet tall or 48 inches tall? Pause the video and write down your thoughts on that, and then come back. I hope you know I was trying to trick you. That's the same measurement. 4 feet tall is 48 inches tall. Okay, moving on. So in your SRB, that's the one you can access online, on page 184, there is a page about measurement and data. I'm not going to read this whole thing to you right now, but you could go online with your McGraw-Hill password that you have a little card for, and it can be read to you. That's what that little microphone means, that if you clicked on that, or the little speaker, they would read it to you. So you've got this page of interesting information, as well as this one. This is the bottom of page 184 in your SRB. It's got some really great information in there. So I would say at some point, take a look at that and read that through, because I think it will benefit your understanding. So let's talk about some number stories where we could use this kind of data. So if the length of a hippo is 3 yards, how could we use the measurement scale on page 24, that's in your math journal, page 24, to determine the length in feet? Pause the video and think about that. So I'm thinking if you went to the 3 on the yard side on page 24, and then you slid your finger over to the feet side, you would see the equivalent measure, and you would see that 3 yards is equivalent to 9 feet. Is that what you found? I hope so. Then how about this one? If the length of a coyote is about 3 feet, how can we use the measurement scale to determine the length in inches? Pause the video, take a look at that on page 24. Okay, I hope you found if you went to the 3 on the feet side and slid your finger over to the inches, that would be the equivalent measure, and that it would be 36 inches. That's that yard size, right? Excellent. Okay. So there is, again, page 24. You're going to try to complete problems 1 through 4. And then you can also take a look at 5. So then some questions based on that data you just filled out on page 24. How could you use your answer to the number of feet in 120 inches to find the number of inches in 20 feet? So think about that. Come back when you're ready. An answer that I'm thinking you could have written down would be something along the lines of, well, I know that there are 10 feet in 120 inches, and I know that 10 times 2 is equal to 20, and that 20 represents the 20 feet I'm trying to get to, right? So I could take that 120 inches and multiply it by 2 to get 240. So the number of inches in 20 feet, 240 inches. See the work I did there? How about this one? How could you use your answer to the number of feet in 10 yards to find the number of feet in 20 yards? Pause, figure it out, come check. So here's what I'm saying. I know that there are 30 feet in 10 yards. I also know that 10 times 2 is 20, so I just need to multiply the 30 from the 30 feet in the 10 yards times the 2 to see that it would be 60 feet in 20 yards. Lastly, so in general, how do you convert from yards to feet and from feet to inches? Try and write that down for yourself. Here's my answer. And yours should be something like this. I know that there are 3 feet in each yard, so I would just multiply the number of yards times 3. And I know that there are 12 inches in each foot, so I would multiply the number of feet times 12. That's how I can do those more complex math problems. That's the general rule. I hope that makes sense to you. Make sure you have this written down in your notes. It's going to benefit you later. And if that didn't quite make sense to you, go back and re-listen to this section again, using page 24 as your reference. So another big overarching general concept I want to make sure that you understand. So what happens when we convert a larger measure of length, such as feet, to a smaller unit, such as inches, and why? There's a general rule that applies to that. See if you can figure out what it is, jot it down in your notes, and then look to see if you have something similar to what I have. If your answer is not similar, jot my answer down so that you have it in your notes. Here's what I'm saying. The numbers get bigger when going from a bigger unit of measure to a smaller one, because it takes a greater number of those smaller units to make up or represent the same length of the bigger unit. Think that through a minute. And then let's go the other way. So what happens when we convert from a smaller unit of length to a larger one, such as if we go from feet to yards, and why? Jot down your thoughts, pause the video, come back and see if you're on the same page as me. So here I'm saying the numbers get smaller when we convert from a smaller unit of measure to a larger one, because it takes a smaller number of the larger units to represent the same length. Does that make sense? So if I had 6 feet, and I'm converting from those which are smaller to the bigger yards, I'm only going to have 2 yards as my answer. So the number is going to get smaller if I'm converting from a smaller unit to a larger one. I hope that makes sense to you. Okay, here's a story problem. So both a hippo and a polar bear reach a length of about 3 yards. What is the combined length of the 2 animals? Hopefully you would be able to say 3 plus 3 is 6 yards. Here's the question. How many feet is that? I put a nice handy little chart there for you. Hopefully you can convert really quickly there. So using the measurement scale above, we can see that it's 18 feet. As we know that 6 times 3 equals 18, we can see that our answer makes sense because we know there are 3 feet in each yard. Awesome. How about this one? A giant river otter can grow to be 6 feet long. A sea otter is 4 feet long. What's the difference in length of the 2 animals? Whenever we say difference, I hope your mind says, oh, I'm subtracting. Difference means subtracting. So the difference between the 2, oh, and then how many inches? We also want to know that, right? That's the trickier part. So try and figure that out and then come check your answer. So here we go. 6 minus 4 is 2. So 6 feet minus 4 feet equals 2 feet. So that's the difference between the 2 different otters. And if I want to know, so if I have 2 feet, what is that in inches? I can use that measurement scale. 2 feet, slide across. It's equivalent to 24 inches. And that does make sense because I know that there's 12 inches in every foot. So that definitely makes sense. Okay, try and complete problems 5 through 9 on pages 24 and 25, and we will be chatting in class.